December 18th, 2025. The news coming off the front line in Ukraine is it's being dominated by a single seismic event that just happened.
Mm-hmm. Ukrainian Special Operations Forces have confirmed a major success.
They managed to eliminate one of Russia's most fearsome weapons. We're talking about the BM-27 Uragan multiple launch rocket system.
And this wasn't just, another random hit. This was a really strategic interdiction. It happened in occupied Donetsk in Donetsk Oblast, deep in the night, December 15th to the 16th.
And the really revolutionary thing, the part that's shifting the conversation, is the tool they used to do it.
Right.
See, this didn't come from heavy, long-range Western artillery.
No.
This was a new, domestically produced Ukrainian weapon, the FP2 drone.
And this one strike puts a huge spotlight on Ukraine's entire defense ecosystem. It leads you right to the company that built the FP2, a company called Firepoint.
A firm whose valuation has just soared. I mean, an estimated $1 billion in revenue this year.
But, and it's a huge but, this incredible growth is happening while the company is also navigating a major, very public corruption probe.
As if that wasn't enough, Firepoint recently brought in former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to their advisory board. The stated goal, to ensure transparency.
So you've got it all. Cutting-edge tech, high-stakes strategy, big money, and global politics all converging on one spot. A destroyed rocket launcher in Bladan.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Maria.
Join us in the latest Deep Dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. Today, we're covering the fallout from that pivotal strike.
And if you appreciate this kind of in-depth analysis, please take a moment.
Subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
Okay, so let's get into the tactical victory here. The target was a BM-27 Uragan. For those of you less familiar with Soviet-era hardware, why was this specific target so critical?
Yeah, what makes it so important?
Well, it's all about the Uragan's sheer destructive philosophy. The Ukrainian SSO, they used these FP2 middle strike UAVs with a very specific goal.
Right.
Destroy the combat vehicle itself, the 9P140, but also at the same time neutralize the specialized crew and the entire ammunition stockpile nearby.
It really represents that old doctrine of warfare, right? Just massive volume, saturation.
Exactly. The BM-27 Uragan is an old warhorse. Soviet-designed, introduced way back in 1975.
So we're talking nearly 50-year-old tech.
We are. It's a 220-millimeter MLRS with 16 launch tubes. But back then, it was cutting edge because it was the first heavy Soviet system to use both spin and fin stabilization for its rockets.
Which gave it, what, better accuracy?
Better, but still very much an area weapon. You're not sniping with this thing.
And the power is just terrifying. What kind of ordnance are we talking about when this fires a full salvo?
We're talking about the very definition of normative fire. A single launch means 16 rockets, each one weighing 280 kilograms. That's a payload of 4,480 kilograms of ordnance delivered in one go, and it can reach targets up to 35 kilometers away.
So for Ukraine, taking one of these out isn't just a military win. It's seen as a life-saving action.
Absolutely. These heavy area saturation systems are so often the ones responsible for the indiscriminate bombardment of towns and civilian areas near the front lines.
Okay, so here's the question that I think is on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
The reports say Russia has over 550 of these sitting in storage. So why is losing just one considered such a massive shift?
That's where the precision of the strike comes in. The FP2 achieved a total catastrophic loss, not just, damage.
What do you mean by that?
Secondary detonations were confirmed, which means the drone's warhead didn't just hit the launcher, it triggered all the stored 220-millimeter rockets.
Okay. The whole stockpile went up.
The whole thing. And when you do that, you don't just lose the launcher, you wipe out the adjacent support vehicles, especially the 9T452 transporter loader, the truck that carries the replacement rockets.
So it's not just the machine, it's the entire system, the logistics, the personnel, everything.
Precisely. You lose the launcher, the highly specialized ammo, the transport vehicle, and the trained crew needed to run that whole battery. That single strike creates a temporary but significant paralysis of their massed fire capability in that whole sector.
Okay, now that we understand the target, let's switch gears to the weapon, the FP2 drone. This thing seems to perfectly encapsulate Ukraine's strategic shift to what we've been calling asymmetric precision.
It really does. The FP2, made by Firepoint, is specifically engineered to fill a critical operational gap.
Gap.
Yeah, that space between, say, vulnerable strike planes and the longer-range, fewer-in-number missiles. It's classified as a middle-strike UAV.
And we've seen other Ukrainian drones, but this one seems really focused on battlefield effectiveness, not just deep strikes,
That's the design choice they made. They actually reduced the range to about 200 kilometers.
which is perfect for hitting frontline and near-rear targets, like that Uragan in Donetsk.
Exactly. But in exchange for less range, they significantly increased the warhead to a hefty 105 kilograms.
That warhead size is critical. Why 105 kilograms? What's the technical difference that makes versus a standard 50-kilo payload?
That mass gives you penetration and blast effect against hardened military targets. The FP-2's warhead is actually adapted from an old Soviet aerial bomb, the OFAB-100-110Tu.
No way!
Yeah, it uses a powerful RDX TNT mixture. This combo, with the weight, lets the FP-2 outpunch drones like the Russian Buran-2, the Shahed, which carries smaller payloads.
So to guarantee you take out a camouflaged Uragan and set off secondary explosions, you need that extra punch.
You need maximum terminal effect. The FP-2 delivers the precision with the necessary force.
And it has to get through Russia's defenses. Their electronic warfare is dense.
And that's the key technical advantage Firepoint claims. Its resistance to Russian EW systems. That means it can operate reliably where more expensive platforms might get jammed.
And it's versatile in how it's guided.
Very. It can fly autonomously to fixed coordinates, perfect for a known hangar, or it can be guided manually by an operator with a radio link to hit moving targets. That flexibility is paramount.
And the need for this kind of domestic solution, it couldn't be higher, right? Given Ukraine's own struggles with heavy rocket artillery?
It's a classic case of necessity meeting innovation. Ukraine has faced severe shortages of 220-millimeter rockets.
We saw the results of that, didn't we?
We did. Earlier this year, the 27th Rocket Artillery Brigade had to be completely reorganized into a standard artillery brigade. That left Ukraine with only one remaining rocket brigade, the 107th.
So a system like the FP2 helps fill that gap left by the lack of Western MLRS and the strain on old Soviet munitions.
It fills a critical volume and precision gap, yes.
Okay, let's connect this strike back to the bigger picture. This wasn't a random attack, was it?
Not at all. It was timed very deliberately to disrupt Russian massed fire capability, and it was aimed directly at Ukrainian positions in the Pokrovsk-Myrnoret sector.
Which Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky has called the main theater of operations. It's one of the most intense spots on the entire front.
It is a brutal meat grinder. Russia has suffered staggering material losses there. We're talking over 1,000 armored vehicles and 500 tanks just since last autumn.
But they keep advancing.
They do, at a constrained foot pace. So taking out an area saturation weapon like the Uragan, especially one that's about to fire, is essential for stabilizing that line.
Let's dig into the Russian side of this industrial war. We said they have over 550 Uragans in storage. If they had the hardware, why are they struggling to use them effectively?
The problem isn't the launcher, it's the ammunition. This perfectly illustrates the industrial bottleneck Russia is facing.
They just can't make the rockets fast enough.
Not even close. Look at the numbers. In all of 2023, Russia only managed to produce 2,800 Uragan rockets. That number is completely insufficient for sustained high-volume combat.
And this challenge is forcing them to take some pretty extraordinary measures.
It is. They're scrambling. They were forced to accelerate plans to set up a brand new production line for hexogen, which is RDX explosive, at a plant deep in Siberia.
And that move was a direct response to a Ukrainian drone strike, right?
Directly. It happened right after their primary facility, the Sverdlov plant, was successfully hit by Ukrainian drones in October 2024. They're literally moving critical production thousands of kilometers away to try and get it out of drone range.
So they're fighting their own industrial weakness at home, but also looking for help abroad.
Absolutely. They've been procuring MLRS hardware from North Korea, about 120 pieces, according to some reports. And for cruise missiles, they're scaling up KH-101 production, aiming for 633 of them in 2025.
And how are they doing that?
By exploiting sophisticated sanctions evasion schemes to get the Western components they need.
Meanwhile, they're also adapting their own drone tech to counter Ukraine's success. It's this constant asymmetrical arms race.
It really is. Russia is heavily centralizing its UAV efforts. We saw them show off their first official unmanned systems forces drone regiment at the May 9th parade.
And they're modifying drones, too.
They are. We've seen Shaheds turned into operator-controlled platforms and even some fitted with R-60 air-to-air missiles specifically to hunt Ukrainian air defense vehicles and helicopters. It's a rapid tactical evolution.
Okay, let's pivot to the company's story behind the weapon Firepoint. This is where it goes from the battlefield to the boardroom. Their rise has been meteoric.
Astonishing, really.
Before February 2022, its predecessor was, get this, a film and TV casting agency.
Hmm.
Now it's a major defense contractor reporting $1 billion in revenue. The irony is just stark.
And that ascent is being fueled by innovation, but also by some really creative financing models. A big driver is the Danish model.
Explain that. What does this direct funding model mean for Ukraine's defense budget?
It means foreign governments bypass traditional aid and directly fund Ukrainian defense companies to produce goods. It creates a dedicated, predictable revenue stream. It lets companies like Firepoint scale up with confidence.
And Denmark is taking it even further.
Yeah, they are. They're establishing a factory on Ukrainian soil specifically to make solid rocket propellant for Firepoint's missiles, like the Flamingo. That solves a huge domestic bottleneck in their supply chain.
The model sounds great for building up the industrial base, but that kind of rapid growth, it always attracts scrutiny.
It certainly has. Firepoint is under intense pressure. They're currently the subject of an investigation by NMINA, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine.
And this is about their earlier drone model.
Yes, the FP1. The core allegation is about potential inflation of component prices or the quantities of drones delivered to the ministry.
And there are also these questions about the company's origins and political connections floating around.
That's right. Critics have pointed to opaque origins and alleged links to Timur Mendik, who is an associate of President Zelensky. For the record, Firepoint vehemently denies any beneficiary connection to him.
Which brings us to Mike Pompeo showing up in November 2025. It's a big political move. What's really at stake with that appointment?
It's a clear corporate strategy to mitigate risk. If that MBU investigation finds anything, the strategic risk is that it could jeopardize that crucial foreign funding, like the Danish model.
Because that funding requires high standards of integrity.
Exactly. So Pompeo was brought onto the advisory board to enhance Firepoint's international reputation, attract more investment, and publicly commit to establishing the clearest and best corporate standards. It's a direct response to international partners demanding better governance.
So governance and transparency are now just as critical to the war effort as the actual drone technology.
Absolutely. The success of the FP2 is undeniable, but the long-term viability of their whole domestic defense sector depends on navigating this challenge.
And it's worth remembering that Firepoint is much bigger than just drones.
Indeed. Beyond the FP2, they're ramping up production of their long-range cruise missile, the battle-tested Flamingo, or FP5.
Which we've seen in action.
We have. It costs about $500,000 per unit and has been used in high-profile strikes on the FSB base in Armyansk, Crimea, and the Russian city of Oryol. It's another example of that strategic support, too. Czech crowdfunding successfully financed the purchase of one of these missiles.
So bringing this all together, what does this whole complex web of tech, finance, and politics boil down to? When we look at that one moment, the destruction of that Uragan.
It's the perfect illustration of the industrial attrition phase of this war. Localized, asymmetric precision from the domestically made FP2 drone is successfully dismantling Russia's massed fire capability, which is epitomized by that Soviet-era Uragan.
So Ukraine's defense now rests on two pillars.
Two integrated pillars: domestic innovation from firms like Firepoint, and the strategic Western financial support, like the Danish model, that allows them to scale up.
The image of a 1970s Soviet monster being taken out by a sophisticated, locally built UAV, it really encapsulates that old war versus new war dynamic.
And this raises a really important thought for you, the listener, to mull over. The true long-term security guarantee for Ukraine might not just be the hardware supplied by its allies.
Well, what?
The integrity and sustained scaling of its own defense industrial base. And that's a challenge epitomized by Firepoint's need to balance lightning-fast wartime production with robust international anti-corruption standards.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Oria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.